Alright, how's it going, everybody? It's C-RadTV back here in another video, and yes, it's that time of the year again. Draft season is officially upon us. We're just over a month away from the 2024 NFL Draft that will be taking place in the heart of the 313 Detroit, Michigan. So, of course, the draft this year, we'll be looking at Lions draft previews ahead of this year's draft in Detroit. So, of course, our first draft preview is going to be an area that is actually shockingly quite a need for the Lions for wide receiver. Not as big of a need, but as we see with Brad Holmes before, he'll take best player available, and if that best player available is a receiver, he's going to take it. So, yeah, we're going to go through a couple wide receiver prospects to see who I think could make an impact with the Lions in receiving pool. For this preview, though, we're not going to go over Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, or Rome Odunze, because none of those three are going to be aligned. There's no way in hell none of those three will be in Detroit. There's no way Detroit could trade up for either of those three. More than likely, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to go 4th overall to the Cardinals, and Neighbors and Odunze are probably going to go top 10, more than likely. So, don't see a chance there, but after those three, anybody else is in play for Detroit at possibly 29, or even if Detroit trades up to go get a guy. So, we're going to go over a couple receiver prospects. Like, these draft recaps, these draft previews this year are going to be a bit different, though, since the Lions are picking near the bottom of the first round at pick 29. But there's some interesting prospects to keep an eye on, especially if Detroit somehow pulls it off a trade-up. But yeah, we'll go over some receiver prospects, and I'll give you my thoughts on which players I think they should target and keep an eye on. So the first receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of LSU, standing 6'4", weighing 205 pounds, we got Brian Thomas Jr. So for Brian, he's a prototype release wide receiver. Still needs a little polish in his approach, but has a great combination of size and quickness. Makes him hard to pin down for even the best press corners in the league. His strengths, even in NFL, there are very few big receivers that move as effortlessly as Thomas. Glides off the snap, easily pushes corners onto the heels due to his ability to get vertical. Can snap in and out of breaking routes like an NFL vet, so very physical. Better yet, shows instant acceleration after the catch as well. Shows the stop-start quickness of a point guard in a one-on-one. That's just his feet, though. He complements remarkable agility with prototypical size, great wide catch radius, showing timing, body control, strike, can consistently win above the rim. Excellent talent, given that he only started playing football as a sophomore in high school in 2018. His upside seems astronomical, so he might be just scratching the surface of what he could be with how raw he is. But there could be more to offer. In terms of his weaknesses, though, there's merely two main concerns with him. The most obvious that he's playing with an extraordinary gifted supporting cast, which included first-rounders that are going to go more than likely top 5, top 10 in the draft, and Malik Neighbors at receiver, and of course the Heisman Trophy winner at QB from LSU, Jaden Daniels. That fact kept defenses from double-teaming him, which left him wide open for Jaden Daniels. Further, though, there are some drops on tape. Majority came with defenders in close proximity, which will happen much more often in the NFL. But for all the nitpickers, though, he also lacks special team experience, and his height suggests that he can only play outside. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Mike Williams of the New York Jets. Overall, though, a lot of things to like out of him, a bit raw, but, just might be scratching the surface, and there may be a lot more to offer than the tape may suggest. I don't know if he'll be in play possibly at 29. He could be. I think if the Lions want to target him, and if he's the top player on Brad Holmes' draft board, the Lions might have to trade up to the late teens, maybe the early 20s, to have a shot, maybe. They're probably going to have to trade up, but, if he falls to 29, I wouldn't be against it. So the next receiver we're going to go over here, hailing out of Texas, standing 6 feet tall, weighing 172 pounds. We got Xavier Worthy. So for Xavier's strengths, most compelling traits is speed, has potentially the fastest straight line receiver in this draft class. Can get natural separation easily thanks to his traits. Separation doesn't come off as one-dimensional either. Often matches pace with corners, but is then able to shake them with a lightning fast cut. or a double move that leaves opposing defender stumbling. Once the ball's in his hands, he's a threat, able to continue those quick jukes and fakes all the way down the field. Also has returner experience, so offers a lot of versatility with special teams too. In terms of his weaknesses, though, his 2022 season, though, while it's still somewhat impressive, it did show some regression too. His drop rate was way up from his freshman year. Although it has since then recovered to a decent level, there is a lot of people that worry and scouts that worry that those tendencies can return, especially at the professional level, since NFL is a lot different animal than college. And he has difficulties being physical at the catch point due in part to a slight build. Has the height to potentially get jump balls, but gets boxed out by corners that weigh more than him. Ball tracking's a bit inconsistent, might be what contributed to the drop issues. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Darnell Mooney of the Chicago Bears. Overall, a lot of things to like out of his game, very fast too, but, his height and his size, it might limit him to like a slot receiver. And to be honest, the Lions already got that spot covered up with Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions need more of a physical receiver than just another slot receiver. I think the Lions could do better than Xavier Worthy. He would be in play at 29 without having to trade up. But, if we didn't need a physical receiver, I wouldn't be against it. But he doesn't really fit what the Lions need in a receiver right now, because we already got speed receivers and slots with J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown. We need just a physical guy that could just bully corners. So for Worthy, I'm gonna say pass. And the final receiver, the final player we're gonna talk about in this video, we have hailing out of Oregon, standing 6'2", weighing 187 pounds. We got Troy Franklin. So for Troy's strengths, for a tall receiver, shows rare instant acceleration, can peel off the line of scrimmage like a rocket. Has the ability to thread vertically, leaves opposing corners on the heels. Almost happy to leave underneath routes available, with Franklin showing good balance and quickness out of his breaks to gobble out those easy grabs. Can pluck outside of his frame, can track the ball with his head, makes him a threat at all levels. Once he has the ball in his hands, his agility and acceleration take over. He becomes an instant threat to create real damage after the catch. While he's not particularly physical, he can slip through arm tackles, can read downfield blocks well, can slice through traffic. He turned just 21 last February, and his future seems very bright. In terms of his weaknesses, though, he accelerates like a sports car, but he's just as likely to handle off-road conditions and too often fails to pull in contested catches, drops too many passes overall. While he does possess the ideal height for a receiver, sports are relatively spindly framed and also raises concerns about his durability. Although in college, though, he didn't miss a game in college so far at this point in his career. So there's credit there. However, though, while he does possess top-notch straight-line speed, isn't as quick laterally as he is explosive vertically, struggles to make defenders miss in tight quarters. In terms of his NFL comparison, he's been compared to Stephon Diggs of the Buffalo Bills. So, a lot of things to like out of his game, could do a lot of things too. A few things, though, that need to be cleaned up, though. Probably will need to put on some weight, though, but, this is one of the prospects that I wouldn't mind taking a gamble on. If he can put some weight on and get physical, it'd be good too. But definitely someone I think we should keep an eye on for sure. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up all here on this draft preview. Just a pretty short preview though. So yeah, quite a few interesting prospects to keep an eye on. Some interesting names for sure here in the small sample size. With the Lions picking at 29, the selection pool is pretty thin. Not gonna lie, it's a pretty small pool. Especially like normally any other years, I would go over the top prospects too. I would go over guys like Harrison and Nabler and Robe as well, but of course the Lions aren't picking that high this year, so the Lions aren't in play for those kind of players. But yeah, there's still some pretty interesting prospects here that could do just as good a job in the Lions system for sure. In terms of where I think the Lions go at 29, I originally was going to have them going guard. But after the Lions signed Zinter the other day, to replace Jonah Jackson. I think guard is officially off the table at 29. Like, I'll be honest, at 29, I think the Lions are either going to go edge rusher or corner, since those two are pretty big needs right now. But I wouldn't rule out wide receiver, though, at 29. I think receiver is an option at 29, and I think it's a wild card option, especially looking for a physical receiver. And if there's one thing we learned from Brad Holmes, especially after he drafted Jahmyr Gibbs last year, that's expect the unexpected. And that Brad Holmes doesn't give a fuck about mock drafts and positional value and all that shit. And that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell take the football players that they like and the top football players on their draft board at the pick. But yeah, definitely some interesting prospects to keep an eye on. So the next one we're going to go over some defensive lineman prospects in the next draft preview. But yeah, draft preview season is officially underway. Gonna have quite a few draft previews to go along with. I will be revisiting wide receivers. I'll be doing receiver draft previews throughout the draft process, because receiver class is pretty deep this year. Like, it's a pretty deep receiver class. Like, it's a loaded receiver class. Same deal with corner. We're gonna go over the corner draft class too, because receiver and corner class this year are pretty loaded this year. So yeah, quite a few interesting prospects to keep an eye on. But anyway, now we'll wrap it up here. That's all I gotta say, and I'll see y'all whatever I make next. I'm out.